Okay, so the news is out that Kathleen Kennedy has received a 3-year extension on her contract at Lucasfilms. It's as if a million voices cried out in terror and then was silenced. No, not really. Okay, so I'm sure there's a lot of Star Wars fans that are on the fence about this. They're like, hey, oh my God, she's ruined Star Wars. We don't want her. Oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And in some respects, I have a tendency to lean a little bit that way. But after like really reflecting on it and looking at Kathleen Kennedy's body of work, it's a no-brainer that Disney expanded her contract 3 more years. First of all, Kathleen Kennedy has worked on so many Steven Spielberg films, it's not funny. Okay. She also first started with Spielberg as a production secretary on the movie 1941. Okay. And she's been with him ever since. Frank Marshall is her husband. He was a producer on Raiders of the Lost Ark. Later on, Kathleen Kennedy was a producer on Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, The Last Crusade, and also The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. If you look at her body of work, and I've got a list here, The Money Pit, Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3, Jurassic Park 1, 2, and 3, The Goonies, E.T., Munich, Schindler's List, Gremlins, Hook, Lincoln, The Color Purple, and not to mention once Disney bought Lucasfilms, The Force Awakens, that clearly was a fan favorite for all the Star Wars fans, bringing in $2 billion worldwide, and also breaking Avatar's record of raking in raked in $900 million domestically. So didn't break the worldwide record, but broke the domestic record. Rogue One knocks back $1.2 billion, and then The Last Jedi $1.3 billion, which I've said in past videos, I believe they left $700 million on the floor, because the fan backlash was so harsh on that. Most of the hardcore fans that normally would see the movie 5 times in the theater, or like I did with The Force Awakens, I saw it 7 times in the theater. I barely went to see The Last Jedi. I saw it 3 times. The last time I went because I was just shaking my head saying, is there something redeemable about this movie? But anyway, I think $700 million was left on the table. That movie should have easily done $2 billion like The Force Awakens, because it had the Heath Ledger effect with Carrie Fisher's last performance. But now we know they're going to take some footage that was cutting room from The Force Awakens and add it into episode 9. So it won't be her last performance, but the bottom line is that movie should have had repeat customers and the fans. Not the millennials and hipsters are not going to carry these movies to the finish line. It's going to be the hardcore fans, and when you piss them off, they don't show up. Hence, Solo. $400 million. It's going to make all of its money back because $400 million barely broke even. It's going to make all of its money back on Blu-ray and streaming. So it actually isn't a failure. It's just they didn't knock it out of the park. And Solo was a damn good movie. Ron Howard did a fantastic job after they got rid of the 2 knuckleheads from the Lego franchise. But the bottom line is this. Kathleen Kennedy is still making the right decisions. So let's just think about this. They hired Gareth Edwards, who had an amazing run with that Godzilla movie that brought in $500 million. So they thought, hey, he's a Star Wars fan. Let's let this guy do it. And then it didn't work out. So Tony Gilroy comes in and had to do some reshoots. And he was responsible for that badass Darth Vader scene in Rogue One. Amongst other things they had to redo. I think what happens is like Gareth Edwards and also Josh Trank, another knucklehead that they got rid of, they do that shaky cam stuff. And I think when Gareth's, this is just my speculation, when Gareth's cut came in, he might have had too much Saving Private Ryan type of stuff in it. And it just didn't feel or look like a Star Wars film. And so that's why they went and they fixed some things. Now, that being said, the producer, Kathleen Kennedy, made the right decision in that particular instance to bring in somebody else who was more seasoned to do the reshoots. And but Gareth got to keep his name as full director on there. And so that was a good decision. The movie turned out fantastic. And, $1.2 billion later, it was awesome. So Same thing with Solo. These two knuckleheads that did the Lego movie. I didn't see the Lego movie. I'm not into Legos. It's just not my thing. It's a generational thing. I never grew up playing with Legos. It's just not a thing. So, and I don't play video games with the Lego characters. I don't even have a game system. So I'm not into the Lego thing. So I saw the Lego Batman movie, and I thought it was okay, but it wasn't great. So, that's just me. You guys can like those Lego movies. That's fine. I really don't care for them. So I was happy to hear that they got rid of these two knuckleheads, and Alden Ehrenreich's performance, was not going to be like a Jim Carrey, Ace Ventura over the top kind of thing. Again, good decision by a producer to get rid of those guys and bring in who? Ron Howard. So Kathleen Kennedy brings Ron Howard to the table, and who directed Willow for Lucasfilm, but also directed movies like Cocoon, Apollo 13, the Da Vinci Code films. I mean, like, Ron Howard has been a successful director in Hollywood forever, and also going all the way back to American Graffiti, working with George Lucas personally, and George Lucas personally on Willow. So great decision, too little, too late. They spent way too much money. The timing of the release of Solo was still during the Last Jedi backlash. It was only 6 months after Last Jedi, so you got a lot of burnout. A lot of people it didn't go. But the bottom line is, everybody that comes out of that movie loves it. And when you look at the cinema scores and everything, it scores better than the Last Jedi. For the audience, not the stupid critics. Well, let's be honest with you. The critics don't want to piss off the Mouse House and give bad reviews so they don't get to go to the premieres and walk the red carpet. That's the only reason why they love that movie. And like I said before, millennials and hipsters, you guys aren't the true Star Wars fans. You are a passive Star Wars fan. So when you guys rate the movie, it's not the same as the people that have been devoted to it and cosplay and go to all the conventions and stuff like that. I went to Celebration too. I go to a lot of cons. You're not, a hipster is not, and a millennial is not a true Star Wars fan. They are a passive Star Wars fan. It's not to say that you don't like the movies. It's just, you guys aren't the audience. So anyway, they were going to hire Kathleen Kennedy, course corrected, and they salvaged the best they can Solo. Also, they were going to hire Josh Trank who's another shaky cam kind of guy. And he had a kind of a one-hit wonder right out of the box, and everybody loved it. And but then on Fantastic Four, there was tons of problems, and some of it was spoken in the trades. I actually have friends that worked on Fantastic Four when it was in Louisiana, and the stories they told me were nothing compared to what was like what the trade said. I mean, horrible shit went down on that show, and so. Again, Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, when they started hearing stuff from those producers on that film, trickling back to them, they cut that kid loose and said, bye-bye, all right? And of course, Colin Trevorrow, who did Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, and the other one, producers Fallen Kingdom, director the first one. And so, they got rid of him only because he butted heads with Rian Johnson, because he wanted Luke Skywalker to survive, because he had these great story ideas for Luke Skywalker, and he didn't want to kill him off in the second one. So it was screwing with what he wanted to do, so he stepped back. So all the people that are like, they cut him loose too, because it was all because of Rian Johnson. So it looks like the only really bad decision Kathleen Kennedy has made so far is keeping Rian Johnson in the loop, because he was probably a yes man, and yes, and just that's why they liked him, is because he was easy to filmmaker to please or whatever. He wasn't difficult. So if you think about it, every decision that Kathleen Kennedy has made so far has been really good ones, because if she'd have left Josh Trank in place, or if she'd have left those two Lego head knuckleheads in place, or if she had not fixed the end of Rogue One, we would have had really crappy Star Wars films. But so far, out of all the four, the ones that she's produced, the only one that's really sucked has been The Last Jedi. So, look, she's already made back or helped make back billions of dollars for Disney. That doesn't include marketing, or not marketing, but the toys, which have really slumped because the fan base isn't buying into The Last Jedi. So those toy sales are, they're kind of down. So they need to get that back up too. But look, they've got Lucasfilm has a lot on their plate. They've got the next Indiana Jones film that's coming up, which Kathleen Kennedy will be just like the last three, minus Raiders of the Lost Ark. She had her hands in some of the production and stuff on the last three. She's going to be back for this one, so we got to hope that they knock this one out of the park too. And that I've said this before to other friends of mine that I hope that this is Harrison Ford's Logan, like Hugh Jackman, where they just make one badass movie based on his character and then they leave it alone, and let someone else take over the role later on down the road, and they'll reinvent the wheel, however they're going to do it. But this next Indiana Jones film, more practical, less CGI, no CGI monkeys. If you're going to put a scorpion on somebody, put a real scorpion on somebody, not a CGI scorpion, and so on and so on. But Kathleen Kennedy so far has been doing a fantastic job. She's brought in billions of dollars to Disney, and they're very happy. And one misstep for someone who's produced so many franchise movies over the course of the last 35, 40 years, there's no way they're going to cut her loose. You tally up all the box office for all the movies she's worked on since the 80s, and you're talking about billions of dollars. How do you get... And Frank Marshall is her husband, who produced Raiders of the Lost Ark, all the Indiana Jones films, been a producer, all the Bourne films with Matt Damon, and then that one with Jeremy Renner. I mean, Frank Marshall has produced a ton of stuff too. You add up Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall together, and it's Hollywood box office gold royalty for the last 40 years. And that's just the way it is. So there's no way they're getting rid of her. And I'm kind of happy that she's made a decision to bring back J.J. Abrams. So now he is going to be doing episode 9, which is fantastic. It's going to give the fans what they want. A really solid film with good pacing. Rian Johnson, dude, your pacing, your edits. Ugh. Anyway, that's the least of the problems with Rian. But look, so she's already making good decisions. And then... obviously, Spielberg will be back for the next Indiana Jones film. And so, look, we've got Favreau to look forward to, who's going to be doing the Lucasfilm TV series based on Star Wars. And if their production value looks like Star Trek on the CBS All Access, dude, these Star Wars television shows are going to be so badass. We've got Resistance, which I probably won't watch because it's just not my thing. I wasn't really into Rebels and all that stuff. I'd watch them in bits and pieces when somebody would say, Darth Maul's on Rebels, and I'd check it out and see what it was all about or watch clips on YouTube. But, it's not going to go away. The other thing we have to look forward to is the Game of Thrones guys. We got to see what these scripts look like when they come in. David Benoff and D.B. Weiss, who do Game of Thrones. I love Game of Thrones. And if they do the Old Republic, it'll be like Game of Thrones with lightsabers, because these guys know how to create rich characters and great storytelling. And if their 3 scripts come in and they're badass, I guarantee Rian Johnson's going to get the boot, okay? Because he did leave $700 million on the table. And just to give you an idea, the last Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull did $786 million worldwide. So by not breaking $2 billion with The Last Jedi, which he should have, with multiple screenings from the fans, $700 million he left on the table. I just can't believe Kathleen Kennedy hasn't given him the boot yet. But I guarantee what they're going to do is they're going to give him one film. And they're going to say, look, you can write the trilogy, but if your first one tanks, we're not going to proceed with your trilogy. So what they're going to do is they're going to make a single film that has a closed ending. So yeah, you could bring the characters back for another adventure, kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, but it'll be one film. And if that one film tanks because of the fan backlash, he's gone. But I have a funny feeling he's gone anyway. But we just have to wait and see how that plays out. Kathleen Kennedy's not going anywhere. I think she should stay where she's at. I've been on the fence about this, but when you look back at her history, I'm right. She's the one who needs to be there moving forward with Lucasfilm, and she's going to do justice to the fans, and everyone's going to love her again. So those are my thoughts on Kathleen Kennedy getting her extension for Lucasfilm. If you like this video, comment below, hit the like button, share it on social media, and we'll see you next time.